Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we have Samantha on, who is a director and producer on a massive YouTube channel. Hi Samantha, how are you?
Hi, yes, I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
All good. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you're actually doing at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, producer, director, I work for the CarWow YouTube channel. A lot of people don't know that CarWow is also a website as well as a YouTube channel, but I just specify in the channel itself. We make, for those of you who don't know, car reviews. We do like entertainment videos, like drag races. Yeah, it's kind of like the competition to Top Gear.
Yeah, I watched a couple of the videos earlier today, actually. One with a Bugatti, I can't pronounce it right, Chiron?
Chiron, yeah.
Yeah, that was mad. That is a
Was
mad
it
car.
the fastest car in the world
Yeah,
video?
yeah, that was it, yeah.
Oh, Matt's face. Like, I don't think we've ever really done passenger ride videos before. I think this was one of the first. And we were also like world exclusive as well. We were the first people to have access to this car. So It was a really, really special experience for us.
So how did you get into this? Was it a love for cars? Was it a love for movie making? How did you land here?
Okay, cool. So I won't bore you with like massive details, but back when I was a kid, my dad was like really into cars. He was a mechanic and we always had like different cars. He would buy and sell cars all the time. And my uncle worked in the media industry filming for television. He would do documentaries like all over the world and film sports and stuff like that. Whenever I'd call him to catch up, he'd be like, "Oh, hi darling, I'm just in Thailand right now filming something," and I would just be like, wow, that is so cool. So yeah. I loved both cars and filming. Yeah, I just kind of chased that passion. I went to a really rubbish secondary school in a small town in Essex.
Whereabouts in Essex?
Oh, in Harwich.
Okay. We're from Essex. That's why we asked.
What, you're from Essex too?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, no way. But yeah, sorry, Harwich School. It was really terrible when I went. Hopefully it's better now. Like, I had a lot of people kind of stamp on my dreams when I was there. It was a very small-minded town. Like, when you go and tell people, like, you're like this 13-year-old just like, I want to be a camera operator and like go and film cars around the world. They're just like, what? You're never going to do that. Even the head teacher at the time, like on careers day when I was 16, I said I wasn't going to bore you with the details, and here I am.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. So my head teacher was just sort of like, yeah, you'll never, be able to do that. And
what a way to inspire his students.
Yeah.
Yes. But almost it kind of did. I mean, I had great parents that really pushed me and said like, go to college, because I was like, I'm not going to go to college. And then my mum was like, yes you are, like she'd kind of like, not forcefully, but in a way that got me thinking about my future. She would say, well, do you want to just like work in a shop down the road, or do you want to go and enjoy and actually grow into this person that you want to be, do the stuff,
have some ambition.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, I'll go to college then, and then I remember the same question came up again, like at college, like when it was sort of like coming to the end of college, where we all just like had a bit of fun, like running around making videos. And
so was that what you were studying at college, videography?
Yes. Yes, so I studied TV and media production at college, and it was a really great experience, like just being young and being able to just run around with a camera, because mostly it was like practical, because I didn't really want to do much writing stuff. I mean, I never really got that, like why you want to just write about stuff. I mean, it's for some people but not for me. But it was really difficult being actually a woman as well, trying to break into two very male dominated industries, like so obviously the main one being film, because at the time, like, yeah, it would be great to marry the cars and film together, but at the time it was like, right, I'm studying TV and media production, like just try and break into that world before trying to break into the other worlds like cars. So yeah, it was very difficult because a lot of the class was men, I guess boys at the time. They all wanted to be camera operators and editors, and when we'd get into groups to do projects, then I would always be the one that's doing the producer work.
So how did you then get started in the industry? What was your first sort of role
in my career? So fast forwarding past university, my first role in the industry, I was in the automotive car industry, that is. So fast forwarding past a low budget feature film I worked on as well, for no money, which was just crazy amount of hours. I mean, we were doing like 12 hours a day, and then driving, dropping off actors and stuff like that. So I was doing like 16-hour days at least, like 6 days a week.
And was that just to get some experience?
Exactly, yeah. So it was really, really difficult, like actually getting my break.
Is that common for people to come out of university and just do work for free in that sort of field?
Yes, it is. There's a website called mandy.com, and that's where I was literally just like sending out so many applications, and also I can't remember the other one, what it's called now, but you have to pay a fee and you sign up.
I guess backtracking a little bit quickly, what did you actually study at university?
Oh, at uni, after college, and my college tutor was like, who was going to uni? I'm like, not me. And then the parents had the same chat again. And so, so I originally applied for the broadcasting degree at Falmouth. And then during the application process, they changed the name of the course to digital media. And I am so glad that they did that and recognised that broadcasting or doing like TV studies was becoming obsolete.
Yeah, the world had changed.
Yes, exactly. The world was definitely on the change. And at the time I was like, oh, this isn't what I applied for. I want to do, television stuff like my uncle does. But I'm glad that they did change it, and they changed a lot of the way that we were studying things. So they did more graphics and web design, gaming.
Also, a plethora of, lots of different things going on there.
Yeah, it gave me and everyone else in the class opportunity to try doing like different specialist skills within digital media rather than just doing like filming and editing, which was great. And I got to try all these other things, but I still was very much like honed in on like, nope, I definitely want to be a camera operator.
Yeah. Were you able to bring any of your car influences into your uni degree?
Thinking back, I made a lot of weird stuff at university. Yeah, if I showed you any of them now, they're all like very inspired by Karl Marx and Sigmund Freud and all of this kind of stuff that they get you to do at uni to kind of be more filmy, yeah.
The art side of things.
Yeah, so a lot of that stuff was kind of very weird. I mean, the particular project I'm thinking of is got loads of layers on it, and it was just sort of like loads of video layered on top of each other. And there's like one scene out of, oh god, I can't remember the film. Oh, but it's got like, I don't know, 1950s Barbie with like somebody doing drugs and just it
sounds very artsy.
Very weird. It's very weird. But we got a first for that project.
Oh wow.
The only first that I actually did get. Yeah, I did. I graduated with a 2-1 from uni. But yeah, I never really did any car stuff at uni as well. It was kind of, this is the weird thing. I kind of ended up like doing car stuff. Definitely my goal to like do something that I love, which was the filming, and it was just like, it would have been great if it was, filming a passion as well, like, if somebody who films football and they enjoy football, that kind of thing. But because when I first started like getting into the industry, and I was like doing jobs where basically you just work for nothing, yeah, so it was basically just sending out loads and loads of applications, and something that as a manager now I would not recommend anyone to do, because like employers really want to see something specific targeted to them. You know, I really appreciate it now when we have like so many applicants at Carwow. If somebody's, you know, specifically said like, you know, I love Carwow, want to work for you, like these are my skills, you know, and then you look at, you know, the show reel and stuff like that as well. So yeah, back when, you know, I was younger and applying for all of these jobs, it's like, I wish I had that knowledge now, you know, applying for work. But
so what's an average day in your role like now? I mean, you're doing creating these amazing films with some really cool presenters.
You're
and
manager
some,
as well.
Amazing cars. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so my day-to-day is like really varied. From like today, even I was doing some scheduling stuff, so sort of like managing deadlines, making sure, you know, the team are going to produce the videos on time, which generally we're like really, really close to deadline all the time, because we just like have such short turnarounds. So, you know, we respond to things really quickly. So for example, like the Bugatti car, for example, we'd know that there'd be other journalists that would go after us. So we sent somebody out there, and then as soon as they're back or on the plane on the way home, they're editing away. And then I'm there sort of like in the evenings, like ready to review. Like I've got a video to review after this call. So yes, another part of my job is reviewing videos, which is great when you have a lot of reviewing to do, because then you just literally sit around and watch videos on your phone all day. Because another reason why I watch them on my phone is because a lot of our audience watch videos on their phone, and a lot of them watch it in portrait mode as well, so they can comment on the video at the same time. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Can't say I've ever done that.
Yeah, and going from sort of like training my brain from going like, I want to make something really beautiful, 16:9, you know, landscape, you know, like really beautiful drone shots and stuff, and it's just like, people don't really want to see that on YouTube. It's like they want to, you know, be watching on this tiny screen and have like content really fast. So like not an hour long like Top Gear would, you know, when you sit down and you watch television and you're going to sit there, you'd like planned your time, you know, whether that's your Top Gear or whether it's your EastEnders or whatever you want to watch. But, you know, people sit down and they watch their show. Whereas with Carwow and YouTube, YouTube especially, is people just want content so fast, and like they just don't have the attention span to sit there for longer.
I guess that's really interesting. So you were talking about your uncle when it was in sort of the older days of producing and making television, and it was very much long format, the beautiful shots, and now you're at the forefront of like the social media content and the YouTube content. That's that must be a really interesting space for you to be in. Yeah,
really. And it's just like, it's one of those things where, as I was saying as well, like I kind of ended up like doing the cars and filming because I applied for so many jobs, and then I was going to these interviews with like different companies, you know, people that weren't specializing filming cars, because it's just so difficult to get that like first break. And I actually ended up having an interview at Dennis Publishing, and again, not going to suggest that anyone does this. I did absolutely no research on the company at all. Yeah, I turned up, I had this an interview with so she was my manager eventually after she accepted me, but Sarah Hunt, which I think she's still there, and Lily as well, and they were both, but they're such strong women. And I went into this interview, I remember just feeling like so scared because they're just like sitting across the table from me, like, you know, Lily's wearing her glasses, and you know, I'm just like, oh god, like they started asking me questions, and I felt okay, like I know about my skills and stuff, I can talk about myself, that's fine. And then they started asking me about what I thought of the company, and I was like, oh god. And little did I know that they were Auto Express and Car Buyer.
Oh wow.
Because it was said Dennis Publishing, and it was an editor role as well. Yeah, and it was like a 2 months. I think they had me on like a 2 month internship or something like that. I was there for so once they said yes, okay, you're hired for the internship for 2 months. We were working on, those like old school iMacs, and they're really thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like, we were on like Final Cut Pro 7, if anybody knows about it, editing. And they sort of like saw my editing skills for like a week, and then they were just like, do you know how to film stuff as well? And I was like, yeah, I can shoot stuff, I can camera operate, and then I started getting sent out on shoots with Matt Watson, and it was Rebecca Jackson as well at the time they had on Car Buyer. But yeah, I was just like, I remember like, got this internship, and I was there and I was like, oh my God, I've done it. I was like, I've got my dream job. Oh! Like cars and filming. I was just like, I've done it, I've made it. And then like I've always kind of had this like, since then, like this kind of passion and drive about me to just like do the best work that I can, and always like growing my skills and stuff like that. And I guess like kind of fast forwarding to today is just kind of, I've always tried to do a role that's like above mine. So I'll try and
you're constantly trying to achieve, that higher position, do more, go out your way sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, now I'm at producer director. It's like, how can I go any higher than director? What's next?
When you were in your internship and trying to do more, did you was that realised by staff around you?
Yes, but I feel like where I was before, there wasn't much room to actually grow like my title, and obviously I was very fresh. So I had like a lot of time to kind of give before I could really prove that I was good. And I also like, when I look back now at videos I was making in like 2013 with Matt on an old Sony, I can't even remember what they're called now, but like a little Sony Handycam thing, just like the video quality and obviously my skills like growing over time. I had to put in a bit of time in sort of like really, because I think you can't jump too far, like you can't run before you can walk kind of thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of, I guess the first couple of years was like really doing well at editing in Final Cut 7, and then like using that camera that I'd been using for 2 years really, really well. And then I would start thinking like, right, how can I make this, like, how can I improve this? They would always send me on these track battles, they'd call it, with a guy called Owen Mildenhall, who's an ex-racing driver for Porsche. And that was so much fun because we'd have this format of like how we shoot things, but each time I would go, I would make it better somehow. So introduce a new bit of equipment. Maybe I'd use a slider or a jib. I'd also look at our like rivals as well, see what kind of video content they're doing, what it looks like, and try and improve the quality. I never really knew about the analytics side until I moved to Carwow. And Matt Watson, he's not just the presenter of Carwow, he's the editorial director. He managed like all of the content. So when I actually joined Carwow, Matt was sort of essentially directing videos in terms of like their story. And what was quite interesting when I moved to Carwow after Matt was that he introduced his knowledge of YouTube analytics.
Right.
So YouTube analytics give you data like how long people watch your videos for, what gender of people, what age. You can't obviously see the specific people that are watching your stuff, but they can give you, like YouTube will give you that kind of general data. of who is watching your videos for how long.
So you can tailor your
where.
content.
Yeah, exactly. So we can see where people are really enjoying watching our stuff, and that was what I really appreciated from Matt when I joined CarWow after we had worked together at Auto Express and Car Buyer. So I knew what it was like to work with him, and so moved over there, and he taught me this new stuff, which then was that kind of new skill. I was like, okay, great. So I can now really, rather than just focusing on the video quality, because that's all I was doing before, I can now actually see what the audience actually likes, what they're actually enjoying watching. And that's where Matt and I have worked together to create these kind of formats that we do now on CarWow that just work really well. And we're now kind of trying to chase what's the next thing that's gonna make us, stand out, because there's only so many drag races you can do.
Absolutely. So what would be something that you see in your personality traits that you see in yourself and others in the industry around you?
So when I first started doing this job as a camera operator and editor, I was very shy, and I still feel like I'm a shy person. Like deep down, I'm sort of like, ooh, very like, if anybody says anything to me about like, oh, you do really well on the channel, I'm like, oh, thank you. Just like really like, just, I don't know. I just never want to feel like that I'm big-headed or anything. Mm-hmm. So I always like play it down. If anyone's like, oh yeah, like #1 YouTube channel, I'm like, yeah, okay, just gonna go hide in the corner now. So there's kind of like still a part of me that's like obviously just like true to who I am, but to become like, to get into where I have been now, I've had to become like a different person. To be a manager of people, you can't just be shy and kind of quiet in the corner. You have to, take charge, and especially being manager, you have to take on a lot of other people's problems and park your own and deal with those. And being quite a young manager as well. I mean, I started I went into producer role about 3 years ago. And I think in the video I posted recently about how I got my job at CarWow, I was a camera operator and video editor at CarWow. I'd gone from Auto Express to CarWow as the same role. And then as the producer was leaving, I just went to Matt and I was like, I can do that. And he was like, really? Didn't even think about you doing that role. Because he'd like taken me, aside to have a chat about what we're going to do. Like, are we going, like, who are we going to hire, like interview, And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And that's where I was actually quite appreciative that of all those, times at college when the men had been like, oh, I'll do the filming, and then I did all the producer work, because that's the only experience that I actually had was at college and uni of doing anything producery.
That's good. I mean, that's amazing on you to sort of step up and say, I'm going to do this.
I mean, I don't want to say like fake it until you make it, because I did have a bit of experience at uni, but it kind of is a bit of believing in yourself and then doing the research and learning along the way, and just knowing that you will make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but you do need to push yourself, because otherwise you're just always going to stay in that role. Like I could still be in that role now, just filming and editing stuff, but if you don't do something, then you're never going to move forward.
What are some of the biggest positives and opportunities you've had out of the role?
So when I first started at getting sent abroad at work, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And like the motor shows were always like something that none of the team wanted to do. So this is back when I was at Auto Express. I can't remember. It wasn't long that I was there. I'd only been there a couple of months or so. And they were like, oh, okay, you can hold a camera. You go off to Geneva Motor Show.
Wow.
And with Matt. And I was just like, this is amazing. I had my backpack with my camera in and went over to Geneva. And it was such hard work running around with Matt all day. And the thing is as well, Frankfurt was the worst, because he would like go and do like mini in one area. And I don't know if you know, but Frankfurt Motor Show is I think it's a mile long. People actually get driven from one side of the show to the other. So yeah, Matt had like planned to review all of these cars, but you had a certain order for them. But it just meant that like Mini was at one end and then Audi was like at the other end. And I never got a car trip. So I was always like running to like go and meet him at the next stand. So I was like, oh God. But I will say that it was such an amazing opportunity, even though it does wear thin after a while, like doing the traveling. And now, I think I went to LA and China with Matt last year. So we did the Shanghai Motor Show, and we also did a lot of filming in LA, as well as filming the LA Motor Show as well.
Wow.
And it was quite nice because those trips became available, and normally like Ad DOP would go or something like that. But I think he was on another trip just before the China one, and I was like, I'll go, because they didn't want to send him back to back on, you know, these two big trips. And then obviously the LA one came up as well, and then I was like, I'm going to take that one. So it's quite nice that I can kind of choose to flip back into like that other role now, because I've still got those skills, and it's quite nice to like be multi-skilled and not just be in one like niche role. And that's also, I guess, the difference with if you work on a film set or in television, for example, you go into that role and then generally you like stay in that role and you become really good at it. I never thought of myself as becoming a producer director. It's just kind of, I've just got here. But people, when they're like studying, whatever, they're just like, I want to be a producer or I want to be a director. And then they go into that role and they stay in that role like for life, and they become really good at it. But yeah, that's what's kind of been quite nice about YouTube work, because it's just so varied, and you have to be multi-skilled in an industry that requires, I guess, like one person to do so many different things. Like, because it's just cheaper. Like YouTube doesn't pay the same as what television does. But I think we will get there eventually when that mentality shifts. You know, the generation is changing. Like, I mean, I don't even have a TV license. I don't watch TV anymore.
Yeah, I don't watch TV.
Yeah, like everybody's getting their content like online, even with like BBC iPlayer is a thing, but I don't watch anything on there. There's no television like shows that I'm actually interested in on TV. You know, everyone's on Amazon Prime or Netflix or something like that instead.
Absolutely. And what would be some of the less favourable or negative aspects of the career?
The hours are very difficult, but
I suppose they're not set, are they?
They kind of are, like where both of the companies I've worked in, so at Dennis Publishing and at Carwell, like they are like a big business, and they have like other aspects of the business. As I said, Carwell's a website as well, and Auto Express Car Buyer, they're a magazine, they had loads of other magazines, they're a really big company. So they have their like contracts basically, and I'm contracted technically at Carwell to work 9 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. But that just doesn't lend itself well to our type of work. Like, we wouldn't be able to fly somewhere and work a 9 till 5:30 doing a motor show, because
absolutely.
So we just kind of work it differently, where we will work long hours and we will put in the time, but we'll take a day off the next day or something like that, and then we can sit back, you know, looking at our achievement, like look at those viewing figures happening.
So we like to talk a little bit about what people could expect averagely income wise once they're in the career. So we did a bit of research and found a few figures. So just let us know if they sort of resonate with you. So average income for sort of director and producer, you're looking, it really did range between 30 upwards to sort of 50,000. Does that sort of sound right in your experience and people that work in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started as a camera operator, which I think most people going into wanting to go into like director role, for example, they'll start off on a very, very low wage. As I say, working for nothing is definitely going to happen. Like work experience, they'll kind of label it as sort of like as assistant director. So I actually started off as a runner.
Okay.
Oh, my brother does that actually.
Yeah.
He's a runner at the moment.
Yes. So yeah, generally runners, they're just like, you know, there for the experience, and it is absolutely amazing. I don't regret like doing the work that I did for nothing. I worked on, as I said, a low budget feature film, and the experience that I got being on the set and watching the DOP, watching the director, watching the producers work, and started off as a runner and actually progressed up to third assistant director. I went from runner to head runner to third AD in like the 2 months that I was working with them.
Wow.
And so I really did like loads of different kind of roles as third AD. I was like, I'd work with the producers, I'd get cups of tea, manage schedules a bit, manage people on set, swing a light over the top of a truck to make it look like this was actually something that was really cool. So to make it look like, basically there was this truck in a studio, to make it look like they were going underneath, you know, like street lamps, like kind of orangey street lamps. They'd put this light hanging down sort of on this pole over the top of the truck, and basically you swing the pole over the top of the truck with loads of people shaking it to make it look like it's moving.
Going. Wow.
And somebody turning the light on and off.
Very cool.
As it goes across, and it was just like, that is really cool. Sort of going back to your original question in terms of salary. So yeah, you'll start off working for nothing. That's a given. To get experience, basically. That will then get you into your next job. Starting salary back in 2012, 2013. Yeah, it was about late 2012. I mean, I started on like £18,000. It was really, really difficult to live in London on £18,000.
Oh, wow, you lived in London on 18. Wow, that must be so hard.
Yeah, £18,000 a year. Yeah, it was very difficult. Like literally all of my money went on rent and eating. That was it. I felt like noodle? I was still a student. Yeah. It was so difficult. So it's hard to get your first break. Then it's hard to get like actually live, you know, in London and work there. I think actually as well, I used my boyfriend at the time's address instead of my Essex address I don't know if I'm doing something wrong here, but I was kind of like living at his but not, but yeah, I used his address because generally like London employers want to see a London postcode because they want to know that you'll easily be able to travel to work. So that's really important. If you're going for a job in an area, employers are going to look for how far is it going to take you to travel, or if you say you're going to move, then that's fine. But generally, like as employers are going to look through, they're going to be looking at that. And then in terms of what you can earn as a director, I mean, I don't know what you've been looking at there to get those figures, but I would imagine that it could be much more than that if you became like Steven Spielberg, for example, on a film. I have no idea what that man earns, but I'm sure a lot. As a sort of like the 30 to 50 mark, I would say that's probably, you're looking at a good region there for a camera operator or DOP. That's the kind of rate they would charge. So you could probably go a bit more for a producer director.
So what would be something that's not in the job description that you maybe have to deal with every now and then?
Oh, not in the job description. Oh God. Well, I guess editing isn't in my job description. Neither is camera operating.
Oh no, some of the more quirky things that you don't.
Maybe it's
Quirky.
dealing with the people or dealing with the travel.
Oh God, I'm really having to kind of dig in my brain here, because as a producer, like when you're producing something and bringing everything together, like organizing things, calling people, emailing, then it's kind of, it just, anything goes. Like since being a runner, you know, literally you do anything that is required to make the shoot happen. I guess we did actually have recently, I wasn't actually producing, like organising this shoot in particular, because we actually have a producer on the team as well to kind of take away the strain of just me having to organise everything. So there's this rally guys, championship guys, that's like quite high profile. They wanted to bring a helicopter to the shoot, and I remember hearing about it the day before the shoot. And it was quite late. The producer said to me, "Oh, these guys are turning up in a helicopter, da da da. Like, you know, is that fine?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so. Just make sure everyone like knows where they're going to land, and like add it to the risk assessment, basically." And it was just like so extra. Just like, really, do you really need to arrive in a helicopter? Yanni from I don't know if you guys know of Yanni.
Yes, he does up the cars, right?
Yeah, he wraps cars, and he's got like a show on Dave and stuff. And he was there, and he's, you know, a wealthy man, and he's never like flashy with how I mean, he does turn up in Lamborghinis quite a lot. But that's only because we ask him to. But never has he turned up in a helicopter. I just remember his face when they were arriving the other day on the shoot, and just like, oh, really? Just like, who's coming in a helicopter? Like, it's just like, why are you getting ideas? And it's just like, oh no, it's just extra, isn't it?
So what are you looking to sort of progress into in the future? You're very happy at Carwow, and you're making these amazing sort of drag races and things. You talked a little bit about earlier, you want to grow the content. What are you sort of looking to do in the future?
It's really interesting, because like this happens to me all the time, where I kind of like I said earlier, when I reached I was working at Dennis Publishing, and I was like, oh, I've reached my dream job, you know, and then like I'm just like, yay, you know, and then like an opportunity comes up, and I'm just like, oh, get that, and then do it, and then it's just kind of like, it's hard to plan spontaneity. Like, and I am just a very spontaneous person, and when something comes up that I'm pretty much always, you know, yes, like within reason, you know, as long as I'm happy to do it. It's like, if Matt called me up and was like, oh, Sam, do you want to go to, you know, China tomorrow? I'd be like, yeah, go on then. You know, and just like think about the details later. I guess that's like an attitude that's really helped me along my career, is kind of like, say yes and then ask questions later. Obviously do like consider your yes answer before, like, you know, it does depend on what the question is. Yeah, I would say that's why I don't really know always where I'm going to be or where I want to be, but I don't kind of put too much pressure on myself on being like, I'm going to be at a certain place, because goals can change. And certainly like being flexible, as like saying like, oh, I definitely want to be a camera operator, and then going, oh, actually there's an opportunity for producer, I'll do that, you know, and just do something new, which is challenging and just fun, really. Very hard, very, very hard work, especially when you don't really know what you're doing. But yeah, it's just sort of like, again, just believing in yourself, doing your research, like, you know, and grow your skills like along the way. I mean, you're only going to get sacked, aren't you? What's the worst that can happen?
Very true.
You know, if you don't do it well enough, then, you know, what's the worst that can happen? Just do another job.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Would you still go into the industry knowing all you know now?
Would I still go into the industry?
Yeah, would you do it all again?
100%.
Brilliant.
Definitely. Absolutely love where I am now. I love my job. Back when, I was on no money, I really, like, people would always say to you, like, do what you love, the money will come later. And, fortunately for me, it has done. But at the time, I really, didn't think so. But I was just doing it because I really loved it. And even though I was having to, I lived in house share in London for such a long time, like barely being able to afford to live for years, like literally 6 years, I would say, of my professional career. I was living in house shares and, in a room shared with loads of other people, like in the house, and managing that kind of living style and trying to have work and social, and it's really difficult, especially being in London when everything is so expensive. But I would definitely do it all over again and exactly the same ways.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed chatting to you and learning all about your film career and cars and everything. So thank you for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media and YouTube?
So my social media is Pixel Girl Cars, and YouTube is the same name, but generally you'll find me in the drag races doing 3-2-1 on the main Car Wow channel.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Thanks so much,
for coming on.
Samantha. Cheers.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.